Well, both major presidential candidates have struggled to stay favorable to the voters on the campaign trail. And it's got some voters looking for an alternative. Former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson is at the top of the Libertarian ticket. He says he's hopeful that he's going to make that debate stage in September.
Well, the object is to win outright, and it's not impossible that if we go into the presidential debates with the polarization of Clinton and Trump, that we might actually run the table on all this.
Former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld is the Libertarian vice presidential nominee, and he joins me now live. Thank you so much for joining us, Governor.
Elizabeth, great pleasure. Thank you. It's a beautiful day in Boston.
And it's a beautiful day to talk about that debate that's coming up. How do you plan to get on that stage? And I, of course, talk about Mr. Johnson getting on that stage.
You know, I think the commission will put us in the debates. It's the right thing to do. A poll a couple of days ago, Quinnipiac said 62% of all the people in the United States think we should be in the debate for obvious reasons. There's a lot of unrest with both the major candidates. And it's not like we're chopped liver. We're a pair of two-term Republican governors in blue states who were reelected by wide margins as a result of our performance, and we reached across the aisle to balance the budget, cut spending, cut taxes. That's what's required in Washington, and we're not saying trust us or we promise. We're saying we've already done it. And that's really the bedrock argument for including us in those debates.
Okay, but that magic number is 15%, and in order to get to that 15%, you really have to get your message out to voters. There's a number of different demographics. Go ahead.
I was just going to say absolutely. I mean, we've been crisscrossing the country. We had a four-day swing out west last week. We just finished the four-day swing rallies in New England this week in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, ending in Boston yesterday. Very good reception, very good feel on the ground.
When you
many young people.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who are you looking to court the most? Who are you putting all your effort in? Is it that young group of millennials who were so enthusiastic for, let's say, Bernie Sanders?
Well, Governor Johnson does poll number one among voters 18 to 24 and number two among voters 18 to 34. So that's obviously, they like the freedom and liberty part of our platform. But really, anyone who feels a responsibility to think for themselves this year, as opposed to be, frankly, brainwashed by Washington into thinking that they have to cast a ballot that has an R or a D next to it. I mean, that's yesterday's news, I think. You know, almost half the voters in the United States now are independent, register as unenrolled, as opposed to an R or a D. You're disfranchising half the voters in the United States if you're the commission and you say, oh, no, we have to have exclusively an R and a D.
Okay,
you know, they're a tax-exempt organization. They really shouldn't be able to do that.
So what I'm hearing is that this is the year that you can capitalize. This is the year when we see a lot of voters really express some serious discontent for both options. And you're saying here we have a third party that presents you the best platform. That being said, a lot of your promises are dismantling huge entities of government. How are you going to do that? How can you promise the voters that you're going to be able to do that?
Well, it's not a promise. We've done it. I mean, I came into
You've done it at the state level. The federal level, though, there's checks and balances. There's other people that have to approve that. There's Congress.
Well, the same thing is true at the state level. There's the legislature. The missing ingredient often is political will, and Gary and I have the political will. Both of us had governor as our first elected office, so we didn't know that there were sacred cows in the budget. We didn't even know that they were cows, much less that they were sacred. So we were, I mean, I furloughed 8,000 state workers out of 72,000. My first day in office, I never got a postcard about where are those essential workers. You know, we dismantled or we eliminated entire cabinet agencies. That's what we need to do in Washington, in whole or in part, while preserving essential functions. But Gary and I have the will to do it. Both the major party candidates have said, oh, no, 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 no. We're not going to touch entitlements. We think that's just fine. The Democrats in particular, you know, the national debt is going to be $20 trillion when President Obama leaves office, half of that his. And if the Democrats are elected, they've shown that they think, you know, everything is going to be free. Well, one of my slogans is there's no such thing as government money. There's only taxpayers' money, and that's how we would be guided.
Okay, one of the biggest concerns and one of the biggest topics of conversation is jobs. Why do you trust the private sector over bigger government?
Well, look what happened when I cut spending and taxes in Massachusetts. When I came into office, we had the highest unemployment rate of the then 11 industrial states. At the end of my first term, we had the lowest unemployment rate. If we get to implement our tax-cutting policies, both Governor Johnson and I think that will create tens of millions of jobs because the private sector will have the confidence to expand. They don't need huge tax cuts. They just need the certainty that taxes are on a one-way ratchet and there's only one direction they're going to go, and that's down. And if small and medium businesses know that, they'll build that plant next door and hire those 9 to 15 more workers, and that's where job growth comes from, small and medium-sized businesses.
All right, Governor Weld, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the very best, and we hope to see Governor Johnson on that debate stage so we can have you back to talk about it. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.